Dan Dickau here for Gonzaga Nation SI, the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. The WCC tournament continues on tonight as we release this. Monday, March 6th will be the semifinals. Want to recap the quarters and give a quick preview to the semifinals, what to expect, my predictions, my expectations for the games in Las Vegas on Monday. So quarterfinals, what a round of games. I mean, holy cow. LMU faced off with BYU. LMU, only team since BYU's joined the league over 10 years ago to have knocked off Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and BYU. They were trying to knock off BYU for the second time this season in advance to the semifinals to face St. Mary's, but they couldn't get it done. BYU ends up winning that game 73-63. Three Cougars were in double figures, led by Rudy Williams with 23 points. He did a tremendous job of getting to the free throw line, putting foul pressure on the perimeter of LMU. He was 11 of 12 from the free throw line, was Rudy Williams. When you look at the difference of this game, though, BYU solid from the three-point line, knocked down 8 of them. But LMU real struggles from beyond the arc. 7 of 27 from beyond the three-point line. Cam Shelton had 27 points for Loyola Marymount, so he continued his unbelievable stretch of play. That's really kind of been since about that January 1st mark, right when league play has begun. I averaged over 20 points per game on the season. You got to give a ton of credit there because retooled his game in the offseason, took the challenge from the coaching staff to improve on some things, took it upon himself to become a great player, a great leader, and he was exactly that for Stan Johnson in his third year. This will be interesting because I think LMU has made tremendous strides, but they're losing their leader. I hope that they get at least one more game. Obviously, I know they if wanted, they can play in the CBI, which is a pay-for-play tournament. But I'm fingers crossed that they get a shot at an NIT game. That being said, I also hope Santa Clara gets a shot at an NIT. I don't think both teams would get into the NIT. From what I've been reading, Santa Clara is a probability. LMU in some of the NIT bracketologist websites is not popping up, but you never know. If they can kind of crack that list, get that opportunity, that would be great to see for the WCC. But hats off to Cam Shelton on a tremendous season. Hopefully he can get at least one more game in an LMU Lion jersey. The interesting thing to keep an eye on is Stan Johnson in year 3 has really transformed that program. Curious if he's going to be a hot name in coaching searches for some of the power conference openings that I'm sure will be opening up in the next week or two. But congrats to LMU on a nice year. In the other quarterfinal game, it was USF, the Dons, facing Santa Clara. Santa Clara seemingly was in control throughout most of this game. But USF, with their backcourt of Tyrell Roberts, Khalil Shabazz, never gave up, never gave in, forced a first overtime, forced a second overtime, and they were able to prevail in that second overtime, 93-87. Tyrell Roberts had a nice game, but the story was Khalil Shabazz. 38 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Knocked down 7 threes in that game, seemingly made all the big plays when it mattered the most to allow the Dons to advance to the semifinals where they'll face Gonzaga. But for Santa Clara, Brandon Pajimski, 22 points, Carlos Stewart, 22 points. They both played well, but they couldn't consistently get anything going to extend that lead late in the second half where you kind of felt they were in control. You know, the 7, 8, 9, 10-point lead at times. They couldn't put away USF, and with that guard firepower, and that 3-point shot, and the emphasis for USF to shoot threes wasn't enough. And ultimately, the USF backcourt made enough big plays down the stretch. So that will lead into Gonzaga against San Francisco in the semifinals on the bottom of the bracket. Now, San Francisco played Gonzaga really well in the game in San Francisco. It took a late furious comeback from Gonzaga to win. Roger Bolton had 9 points in the last couple minutes of the game, including a big time putback with about a second and a half left, if I remember correctly, exactly the timing, but had a putback right towards the end to seal the win for Gonzaga down in San Francisco. Up in Gonzaga, the Zags clearly dominated that game. They were in the control from the jump. They had double-figure leads early in the first half, never looked back. So that will be the semifinal game. I look for Gonzaga to advance, but I think it's going to be a game where Shabazz and Roberts play with a ton of freedom. They're playing with house money at this point, so they will be in attack mode. They will let it fly. They've got nothing to lose. In the top half of the bracket, BYU will face St. Mary's, and this is a game where St. Mary's swept the season series. BYU plays with a ton of pride, as everybody knows that's followed the WCC. They're going to make it a tough physical basketball game. That's BYU's mantra. That is St. Mary's mantra. I think it's going to be a game that is played in the 70s as opposed to a track meet fast game. I think the difference is going to be on the glass. Who can win the battle of the boards? Is it going to be Traore, Gideon George, Ali Atiki, or is it going to be Mitchell Saxon, Kyle Bowen, Alex Dukas, and those guys for St. Mary's? So I think St. Mary's will come out on top. They will be the victor, which will lead to a St. Mary's Gonzaga Part 3 rematch in the finals of the WCC tournament. So check back here tomorrow. I'll have my thoughts, my recaps on the semifinal games, as well as a little bit more of a preview of what I think will be the finals in the WCC conference tournament. So for Gonzaga Nation SI on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network, I'm Dan Dickau. Thanks for listening.